Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rainbow Room. This is episode one. Well, we started out as a radio show and then we came to this. So, is it technically episode one?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Okay, visually speak, it's episode one.
Episode 1.
Hey, everybody. So, my name is Press, not Price. Press, like you're pressing a button. And I am a music ed major, junior at OU. And I play violin. Played for almost 12 plus years.
Yeah, my name's Katie Kingery. I'm a junior here studying English, cultures, rhetoric, and theory, minoring in journalism. Um, Pronouns are she, her.
Oh, yeah, my pronouns are also she, her. Um, so we can like get down to business now. Um, I grew up Jacksonville, Florida. Then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to Performing Arts High School, which was the absolute best. Tri Cities would represent. Um, and I came out of the closet. Well, I didn't really come out. My parents came out for me, which was a really different thing, especially since I'm third generation PK, which is a preacher's kid. My grandfather's a preacher. My father preaches from time to time, and so does my mom and my grandmother. So for them to come out and then be completely accepting, because I grew up in the church. It was the bomb diggity times 12. But I know that not all of my experiences, everybody cannot relate to them. But you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Grove City, Ohio. Um, Largely a white conservative town.
Ooh.
And I went to school in a K through 12 institution called Grove City Christian School. It was part of a church. It was like an add-on to the building. My mom taught Bible quizzing when I was younger, which is like a really intensive program for children aged like grade 1 through 6. You every year you study one chapter of the Bible, you memorize nearly all of it, and then you get together with other kids around Central Ohio and you're quizzed on how much you know. And it was
That's great.
really intense, and that was my entire life for a long time because my mom did it and I was involved and everyone in my family was involved. It was really, yeah, pretty crazy.
I guess we should go into our identities. How do you identify?
I'm bisexual. And I came out actually in my freshman year here at university. I wasn't out during high school, mostly because it was a really, really harsh environment for queer people. My best friend came out in high school, and I kind of saw her story unfold and saw how much hate she got and how difficult it was. And I was surrounding myself with people who were, queer, and at the time I didn't know. I was part of the drama club, I was in band, and everyone that I was around, I made sure was super accepting, but I couldn't be true to myself, and I couldn't, tell anyone else until after I got out of that environment.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I identify as, a black, queer, Christian woman. And I say black, although it's obvious. I cannot talk about me being queer and omitting the entire race part of it because it impacts um, my queerness, I should say.
How?
Because when people first see me, they don't see me as a queer woman. They see black first. They see woman second. And then as soon as I'm able to have a conversation with them, maybe they will see that the fact that I'm queer. It's not the first thing that they see when they look at me. And a lot of the discrimination that I get, it goes in that order: black, woman, and then queer. So and it intersects for everything that I do, how I interact with people. So I can't just leave one of those out when I say, oh well, I do this, like this is who I am, because those are such big parts of my identity.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know it's probably kind of hard for a lot of people to hear that I am still a Christian. because we all know how the Christian church treats LGBT individuals as a whole. I'm not saying everybody does because you can be completely accepting. Your family could be accepting. Your family can be like my family. Um, but the majority of LGBT individuals are shunned by the church in its entirety. In the name of love and God and blah 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 blah. But
Yes, shunned and ostracized and ridiculed and all that great stuff.
mm,
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I for sure had a different religious experience than you did. I mean, mine. I grew up Nazarene, which they're kind of strict in regards to other denominations. I haven't done a lot of research on the other ones, but there is like a hard line of being homosexual and also being a sinner. Like, there is no acceptance. There is no conversation. I mean, it's sort of like you can't even bring it up. You can't even talk about it. I mean, I remember it was like this horrible, dirty, dirty thing that no one was allowed to talk about. And it still was, even throughout high school, even as we got older and people around us were gay, like, we still were internalizing a lot of guilt. I think a lot of the reasons that I got so fed up with the church and everything with my experience was that I felt a lot of guilt. Like, every time I was in class, in Bible class, in chapel, talking with our Bible teachers or whatever, they just preach the fact that there are rules, and if you don't follow them, you have to feel that, and you have to feel bad about it. And so when you're taught, like, well, this thing that you are is so, so, so bad, and you have to feel bad about that, it's like, no,
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
I really don't. And I really think that there are Christian communities out there that are healthy and that are really good for the queer community, but not the one that I grew up in.
yeah. So I don't know if y'all remember, but I mentioned earlier how I didn't come out to my parents. They kind of came out to me. My father is a musician. He travels the world playing his guitar, singing, and so and my entire family are in the performing arts. He picked me up from school one day, and he was just like, "So I was praying around the house, and you're gay." And I'm like, "Okay, father, we're just gonna jump right on in there. That's phenomenal." Okay, yeah.
I was praying around the house.
I was praying around the
and
house.
then he found out.
hmm
Wow.
Um, because my family is not religious at all, really spiritual. Um, we don't look at God as in being this being that's like up in the sky and that's like in control of everything. Like, no, we look at God as being the father, the mother, the sister, the brother, um, and being in charge because that's kind of what free will does. When somebody gives you free will, when you're able to do something freely, then they're not in control. And a lot of people kind of they use in control and in charge interchangeably, which is something that you're not supposed to do because if God was in control, then we would have no free will. And for God to not give us free will, that would immediately make them not God, not to give us a choice. So, gonna not go into that, but so yeah, my father was praying around the house, and he's like, "Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna talk about this more." Now, at this time, I was dressing really masculine because I don't know if everybody knows, but when you first come out of the closet, you try to dress as gay as you want to. Like, you just want the gay to just come off of you. Like, you need people 3 miles out to see that there's a queer person. Yep, that's a queer person. So, like,
Being
my mom,
really,
yeah, and
a lot of pride.
my mom looked at me as I walked into the house. My dad just went upstairs because he's like, "You got to have this with your mom." And she was like, "This isn't you. Go upstairs, buy some clothes that make you feel comfortable, and then let's talk about it." So like that's how like my whole coming out is, and she was right. It wasn't me, in the fact that like I'm not really dressing was not me.
Hmm.
And she saw right through it. She didn't question the fact that I was gay, although it took her a while to actually accept it in its entirety. But that's something that she didn't question.
Hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah. So my family, they've always known though.
Hmm.
I remember growing up, I was like around 5, and I would tell my dad. I have two younger siblings. One is a year younger than me. The other one didn't come until like 13 years later. um, and I would tell my dad, I'm the son that you've never had.
Hmm.
And I didn't even remember saying that. He brought that up to me.
That's yeah. I don't know how early I knew, to be honest with you. Like I don't have a distinct. Well, I have a lot of distinct memories of being very attracted to women when I was younger, but there was never. I didn't put the two and two together. Like I knew it was just I. Well, the way I grew up, also, I was really taught to internalize everything. There's a huge barrier of communication with my family. Like, nothing gets said, and nothing is supposed to be said, and nothing is supposed to be talked about. You're not supposed to rock the boat. You're not supposed to bring up your feelings, your emotions, your passions. It's just a prison of silence, honestly. And I wasn't. I mean, I didn't just internalize my queer thoughts. I internalized all thoughts. Like, I never dated anyone. I never talked about my crushes. I mean, sex in my household was like non-existent. Like, it was the ultimate sin, and you just were not supposed to talk about it. And I think my mom for sure knows. I'm not actually out to either of my parents. I'm out to my siblings. Well, some of them. But it was really hard for me to hear when people had come out in my high school, like my friend Valerie, my friend Frankie, just a bunch of people. Their reactions to that was just harmful. Like, it was like, they asked me, like, how could this happen? Like, do you know them? Like, I don't want you to spend time with them. It was just like this internalized system of hate that they had internalized and then I had internalized, and so I didn't feel comfortable sharing information about me, once I'd left that.
Yeah.
So, like, now if I do come out to my parents, it's going to bring up a lot of things. It's going to be very difficult for me. And I don't know if that's worth it or not. But I mean, the same reason I'm not out to anyone or most of the people at my high school is just like, how can I walk back into that world and shake things up again? Like, it's just more peaceful for me out here.
Yeah.
Because as much as the church is supposed to have open and loving arms, I consider them crossed arms.
There's a lot of things that a lot of people perceive the church to be, and they portray it as such. I heard this the other day, and it was really, really powerful to me. I was listening to this pastor talking, and he was just like, if you accept Jesus as, your Lord and Savior or whatever, you're going to heaven. No buts. Because as soon as you say, well, you have to do this and this in order to get this, it becomes not a gift but a wage.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people do not get that. So when you say, well, you can't do this or you can't do that or blah, 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 no. You might have hell on earth, but this is not a wage. So when hate comes into the field of where love is supposed to be, like, it's almost like in the midst of, like, there is no cold, I think. Yeah, they said there's no cold. It's just the absence of heat. So when you have hate is there, but there is no hate. It's just the absence of love. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. So my family, we had this all around thing of unconditional love. No matter what, I'm gonna love you where you are. I'm gonna love you as a person. I'm not gonna be like, love the sin or hate the sin, because that is really stupid to me. I'ma just love without any conditions. And with the presence of love, hate cannot exist. And a lot of people are not able to get that because they, when people come against LGBT people in the name of God, the Father, the Holy Spirit, the Son, and all the other kind of whatnot, I see them coming against them, the LGBT people, because they internalize a lot of stuff about themselves.
Hmm.
They're almost like, I don't want to call them sheep, but when you have a blind faith and that's all that you know, anything that comes out of that circle, that safety circle that you have, you're just going to push it away.
Hmm.
That lack of understanding literally kills people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of churches and whatnot in small towns that are very homophobic and transphobic and sexist and all that other kind of stuff because they've been there their entire life, or they've been in small towns their entire life, so they have a method to their madness.
And there's no growth.
And there's no growth. So when people are like, well, I'm this, and that disrupts the method, then madness comes in with it
Hmm.
because they have no reference point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think most of my problems begin and end with the construct of religion, like the church itself, the people inside the church, the structures that make up the church.
Oh, most definitely.
The fact that it's a business, the money aspect of it, the people that are on the church board. I mean, it's just horrifying to me. Like, it's just nightmarish to think that people who may have been raised differently, who internalize all of these sexist, homophobic, racist things, can stand in front of a congregation and preach it in the name of religion.
Yeah, institutionalized religion as a whole is absolute bullshit to me. Like, I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
Mainly because, for instance, I'm gonna give you an example. When people are just like, the church is amazing, the church is this. God said the church. Well, the church was never a building with a steeple. It was always the people. It was always the fellowship that you had with people who thought like you and all that other kind of stuff. And then you became productive, and then you became like you begin to grow. And now, because they made that church from, or they thought that the church was like, no, it's not the people. We're going to make a church and then bring people in it. And then that construct of, oh, only God is within those four walls, it completely, it takes everything out. You can't understand stuff that way because when people are just like, God is in the church is holy ground. Okay, well, people don't necessarily understand. We're not talking about the church as in the building, because you wonder why people go through all this other kind of stuff, and if it was holy ground, then they wouldn't be able to get into the church. Like that, no, that doesn't make any sense. The church is legit the people, and once the people completely understands what they're believing in and wholeheartedly and blah blah blah, they are holy ground.
Yeah.
So wherever they go is, and I have my reservations on institutionalized religion. Many.
Doesn't everyone? A lot of people.
A lot of people
sure.
that are woke.
And I agree, like what you're saying, like the authenticity of some Christians that just, and I have only honestly met a few, which is insane. That I went to a school for 13 years and church for longer, and I only met a few people who were genuinely, authentically Christian. That's scary. That's very scary to me. But I love being around those people because it's like, it's so incredible to see their faith and to see, like, just to be around the passion that they have for this person that, I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to become religious again or if I'm ever going to believe again, but, like, I still really value the fact that they preach grace, like like instead of guilt, it's grace, just over and over and over again.
Instead of hate, it's love. There is again, I was looking at this little preacher dude. I cannot remember the name, but he was saying as the kingdom is basically like a country. It has has its culture, it has its language, it has its different kinds of people there that calls it a home. You have visitors that come and go, um, and then but it also has laws, rules. So one of the rules here is just like an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Yet the rule of the kingdom is like love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's a completely different. And when you like go into it, we are having a definite religious talk instead of going with LGBT things, but we're going to get there.
Okay.
But
Exactly.
oh my gosh, we're going to get there. So like when if you read the Bible, or whoever I'm talking to, you would see how people thought Jesus was a foreigner because he spoke a different language, not like as in language that we know of, but his rhetoric was different. You have people that just like, well, because they did this to me, I have to do it back to them. I want to hurt that, but nah, no, why? Like, no, love your neighbor, give them what they need, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So it's like that whole kind of thing. And I really wish we went back to that because now you have a lot of, and then we're not even going to get into the politics right now that says that they're with religion and whatnot. I mean, one country under God, but who's God? Money. That's the one. But we're not going to get into that. How are we going to get back on topic with this? Hold on,
Okay, well, I can ask a question.
please.
Oh, well, we kind of already talked about them. Well, how were you educated about sexuality? As a young
I
person?
I wasn't. It was a community that I found. Like even though I knew I was different, I didn't say, "Well, I am a queer." But like at the age of 9, no. I just knew that there was something different. There was no words. I just knew that my heart was wired differently. And when I found people who were able to help me understand that, that's how I was educated.
When did you?
High school.
Yeah.
I had neighbors. They were like family to me. Of course, I had people in high school because it was a performing arts for Hispanic, Latino, and Black students. So it was beautiful.
Sounds it.
My uncles, Uncle Chuck and Uncle Chris, I knew that they were together, and they just completely took me up under their wing. They was just like, I came out to them, and it was just like, we already knew. As soon as we looked at you, we knew. Like, this is, and now we're going to like help you understand it more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in my family don't necessarily understand it.
That's interesting. I also had uncles that were together. It was my dad's brother, Mike, was living with Steven for my entire life. And I remember asking my mom about it, and she just told me that they were roommates, that they knew each other in college and they were roommates. And I believed her it took me a really long time to figure it out, and then when I did, talking with my sisters about it was like mostly like, how could she lie to you? How could everyone in the family keep a secret? Because nobody talked about it. Like, you weren't supposed to. I loved Mike and Steven, and they're still like right here in my heart. But even when it wasn't said out loud to me until after Steven died. He was really, really sick a couple of years ago, and it was extremely painful to see. To go through that with everyone in my family. But after he died, I found out officially that they were gay, and it was at his funeral that I heard like Mike. Whew, Mike talked about him like he was the love of his life and all this stuff, but that was really painful, to like have that taken from me.
Yeah.
It was weird. It's still weird. Like, we still don't talk about it. Pretty crazy.
But you talk about it.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you.
I just think it's like it's really harmful for. I mean, it was harmful for me, but it's harmful for everyone else who's going through it. Like, children who are still being raised in the church who are still facing the same exact things I'm facing or faced. Like, I don't see any changes happening, and I think that's what sucks the most for me about religion or about Christianity or about any of it, because like I've grown so much and I've come so far, but if I went back, they're still in the exact same spot. Things haven't changed in my church. Things haven't changed in my family, like, which sucks. And I think overall, a lot of people are harmed by Christianity or harmed by the church because, like, I don't know, it's just systematic abuse of, like, you're denying your reality. In certain, like, circles, that's not true. You didn't have that happen to you. That's awesome.
But I am a case that's rare though.
It's so rare.
And I know this, and I acknowledge it. My mom and my dad told me that if your friends ever need people to talk to, parents that are loving, to tell them that they need. I mean that they have the love of a parent. To always call them. Um, because they recognize the mistakes of the church in its entirety. And the hardest thing though, sometimes I wish I would have went through that, because I know that I was completely blessed on all accounts. Um, when when I had the coming out conversation with my parents, before then, I had already accepted myself. I had my little religious affirmation, like, "You good? I'm good. We good." Like, so I had this. I was like, they can kick me out. When I tell you, I was prepared. I remember being in high school and talking to one of my teachers who was a lesbian, and she was like, "So your parents know now?" And I was like, "Yeah. If I don't see you, like within a week or whatever, like for 5 full days." I'm calling the people, because I don't want them to send you to any camp, because she knew that my parents were a big part of the church.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've never told anybody that, but that kind of stuff, like, it makes me. I just want to like tell my parents to be like, go ahead and go, like, go to all my friends, do all this other kind of stuff, go to people that I don't even know, because I want to share what I had. And there is a huge community of LGBTQ Christians. And we have to search, we have to fight. In all honesty, I feel like those that are different, that's within the church community, we have a pure version of who God is. Because we have to fight through all the discrimination, we have to fight through all the hate to find where the actual love is.
Yeah. Through all the hypocrisy.
Exactly. And I know that for me, I had parents that completely embodied the essence of unconditional love. But to have somebody who didn't do that, and then they just keep fighting and just to find out if this thing is actually real, this being, and then they get there, that those are the kind of people that I really want to be around. But I also want to be around other kinds of people who haven't went through all of that. Like, there are some people that I can't necessarily talk about my family with, because it completely triggers them.
How do you mean?
I met a couple of people who grew up in a Christian household, strict, and when they came out to their family, some of them were trans, some of them were gay, they were immediately sent to a psych ward. And then after that, and it didn't work, they were sent to a camp. And after that, and it didn't work, they were kicked out of their house. So, like, and I know that I can't bring this conversation up in its entirety to those kind of people, because I don't want to see them triggered. I don't want to see them go back to where they were, because a lot of them are in great spaces now.
Exactly.
great
Right.
spaces.
They've come so far, like,
Yeah, and like I don't necessarily. So my biggest thing is the love that I can give. I'm not pouring from an empty cup like some people do when they step on that podium and preach to the
yes,
masses.
sure.
And I want to, but I also want to keep pouring and pouring to those that didn't have it. And I don't know why it pulls on me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's your name? We should become like friends.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about yourself. Oh really? Yo, that's dope. Hey, I love like I love you. Just so you know that. Oh, that kind of like went so fast.
Yeah,
Ooh, but
yeah. I, yeah. I just have so many of my friends who just went through that, like just people who are kicked out of their houses. It's crazy. It's crazy.
hmm, my parents are just like you know, especially for the friends that I met, but even for the friends that they haven't met. For the friends that they've met, but they're just like press. I really like your friends. If they people kick them out, they got somewhere to go.
Mm.
I mean, of course, I live in Atlanta, but we can find a way.
That's funny. I mean, it is like, I know my mom would even do the same exact thing. Like, which is so crazy about the whole thing is like, there's a level of deep care, for people, but it's conditional.
Mm.
Like, I know, well, I don't know how my parents would react if I ever came out, but to them, but like, the fact that they've preached conditional love my entire life, I would be like different, you know?
It's always something until it reaches close to home. They say they love everybody until their own child or their sister or their parent even. I've met a couple of parents who were married, had children, and then came out that they were gay.
Mm-hmm.
And like that in itself, it's always cool until it hits close to home.
Exactly.
And I feel like it is then where you really have to practice that kind of love. Because you can tell people from a distance, I love you over there. Yeah, you. Like, but then when people are in your face that you love, that you thought you knew, I knew that it was hard. Even though my parents were accepting, it was still hard for them because my mom, she even told me when I was born, she like imagined my entire life, how I would be, who I would get married to, and all the other kind of stuff, the grandkids that I would have. And when I told her that, it it kind of shattered in a sense, which I don't even think it does because a lot of that stuff I still want to happen, just not with a guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I know that when I came out of the closet, my parents had to go in and come out themselves in support of me, publicly, to stand up for me publicly, to do all of these other kind of stuff because they were still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think as a community, even when we have accepting parents, we still have to give them time. And time can mean a couple of hours so they can do research. Time can mean a couple of years. Um, and I mean, time is just time for them to get on their footing like we did.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
And sometimes it just doesn't happen. But this is what I love about family, though. You can choose your family. You can't choose your blood, and I don't always consider blood family. But there's a reason why I call my best friends family. Like I don't, I rarely ever use the term, "Oh yeah, this is my best friend." Nah, like if we come to that best friend level, you are automatic family. I think I said that wrong. Oh well.
No
But
worries. Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, I feel like I made my own family in high school and I made my own community here. And it's really important to surround yourself with people that are going to validate you and you're going to have these conversations that I could never have, but
and also call you on your bullshit.
exactly. And you can't be surrounded by people who are like the exact same as you, then there's no growth. You have to have your friends have to push you, and your family has to,
You have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a little bit day by day, week by week, but if you don't get out of that comfort zone, what's comfortable to you, as soon as somebody comes in and rock your world, you won't know how to function, and you'll push it away.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how do you? I guess. Okay. I guess my question, because a lot of members of the LGBT community have rejected the church or have been rejected by the church. So how do you keep your faith in these situations and communities surrounded by people who might not think the way that you do? Like, are you open about it? Is it,
I mean, people ask me, I tell them, and see, I'm one of those people that believe if you do Christianity right, it's not a religion, it's a way of living. Because when you love people, that's a way of living. When you constantly love people, not love people just because they're doing this, but loving them through all the crap that they've done to you, all the good things, all the absolute horrible things. The way that I grew up around love wasn't the same kind of love that a lot of people are I feel like can understand. Um, because I even there are it's really physically hard for me to hate somebody, no matter like how they what they've done to me. It's physically hard for me to hate somebody.
wow,
Um,
wow,
I just it's not a part of my DNA. Like
wow.
I can hate somebody. And that's weird to say, but if somebody hurts my friends in a way that's inexplainable, it's easier for me to do it that way. But even then, it doesn't last long.
That's incredible. Because I'm the complete opposite. So
Yeah,
easy for me to hate.
and it takes a lot of, especially if I mean, and I think it's also because I grew up in an environment that completely embodied what I thought love should be.
Hmm.
And when I saw how, because I've been hurt, my families have been hurt, my parents have been hurt. Like I've seen, I've looked hurt and pain in the eyes, and I still couldn't hate it. And I think going past all, and I think that's why I talk about love so much, because it's not the kind of love that you give your boyfriend or your partner or whomever, not the kind of love that you give your friends when they go through something down or if they do something great for you. It's a deeper kind of love that looks past who you are as a person and looks straight to their heart. And that's what I try to do, even if the person cannot change, to see the authentic human behind the eyes. And that's something that I, and it's hard, it is hard for a lot of people, trust me. But I think for me to actually do practice what I say I believe in, I have to keep going forward with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just daily.
Yeah, it's definitely a daily struggle, an hourly struggle on some days. I can't just wake up and be like, okay, I'm loving. No, because the person that bumped me in the shoulder and called me an N word, like, love them. They need help. I got them. Like, it's a hard thing to do because it's so easy to hate people. It's so easy to be angry with somebody, but it's hard to love them, and that's that kind of love that I know I don't have, and it has to come from somewhere. Cause I know that there are some people that I'm just like, yo, yeah, I can't love this. Can you love through me? Cause like my love is on reserve, like, so and I know that kind of love from many different kinds of people that I've interacted with wasn't wasn't just mine, and I think that's sort of the kind of thing that keeps my faith. When I can love past what people do to me, what people do to my friends, because mind you, I will act. Like me saying I love you doesn't ain't gonna stop me from like hitting you, although I have yet to like punch somebody in the face. Like it can come, I,
Right.
but is finding a way past that, going through all the possibilities and seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people hurt other people, usually it comes from a lack of understanding or because they're being hurt.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a lack of understanding, there's a certain type of grace that I give people. Like I am in rural Ohio. A lot of people have never seen a black person before, so they say a lot of problematic things, let alone a queer black person. And because I know that a lot of people are from rural Ohio that come to the school, there is a certain type of grace that I give them because I know that a lot of them just don't know. And
Yeah.
with that grace, it's accompanied by love because I'm able to love you where you are in all of your hate and all of your ignorance because I know that it just wasn't your fault. Like, for some people that just grew up on a farm where they had like three neighbors.
Yeah.
So like that's sort of kind of where I come from with that. A lot of grace too for
Yeah.
different types of
And I
people.
that's awesome. That's really cool. For sure. I would love to be able to get to that point. I think most of my anger, and there is a lot of it constantly, all the time, it is right here. I don't know. I guess it's from my history of being invalidated for so long. You know, the history of not seeing that love, of seeing the judgment, of feeling the cynicism from my father, from
Get specific, why don't you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a big part of how I live my life. But just because I can see people for what they are, but I'm unable to forgive them for the things that they cannot help. You know, like a lot, like you were talking about, people act certain ways because of the way that they were educated. It's like I can see that and I know that, but at the same time, it's like I have no patience for it, which is a character flaw, yeah, but and I'm obviously gonna work on it, but like just where I'm at.
Which is completely valid. Listen, this ain't always easy.
Right.
I
No, it
wish,
is not.
I wish I could hate some people. Like,
It's wonderful.
oh gosh, what was I doing? I had a friend who was supposed to watch another friend because they promised that they would, and shit happened. And I was like, I hate them. Very next day, I just couldn't do it. Like, I mean, granted, I know that I won't necessarily talk to them, and if they come around me, I would acknowledge them, have a conversation because that's the right thing to do. But like hating them,
It's a lot. It's wasting time and energy. That's for sure.
yeah, and like I get angry, but then I realize, well, I can be if I forgive them, I'm actually helping myself move along, so I can experience a lot of different other emotions.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot more productive to work past your anger. I agree.
But it's also hard as shit, though.
Yes. Yes, it is. I completely agree with that.
So like, I completely understand because it's not. I'm not the strongest human being when it comes to emotional stuff. If anything, I am a slave to my emotions. Oh my gosh.
How has religion affected your experience at Ohio University?
So you all know I grew the kind of household that I grew up in. How my grand well, I didn't tell you, but my grandfather has a church that I grew up in. So I wanted to find a community that was like that. Mind you, Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta, a crap ton of black people, a crap ton of different kinds of people of all shades. And I realized fast that I wasn't going to be able to have that community here.
Hmm.
I ain't gonna say no names, but there is a big Christian community on campus, and they got rid of the LGBT Bible study the year that I was supposed to lead it.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
and there is a it's hard to find a place where you can be yourself in totality, where they don't just emphasize one part of you over the others. And that LGBT Bible study was mine, where I can go in there, be as black as I want to, as queer as I want to, as Christian and spiritual as I wanted to, as well as all the other parts of my identity. And they just completely took it away. And they said that um, we want to reach out to a more multicultural group, right? And I was with my director, and they was just like, well, when you look at multicultural, it's anybody that's not a cis white Christian male. So, but the dude was just like, I think I used that word too broad. When I say multicultural, I meant black people. And immediately, even though he was saying, well, I'm surprised you're not crying when I told you this. I'm surprised you're not feeling down. I was like, I don't need to feel down. Like, this is, I didn't expect this, but this isn't different to me. This isn't new.
Hmm.
Um, and then I got the feeling, I'm like, am I not black enough for you? What about the people who are Christian and black and they just want somewhere to go where they can be both of those things?
Mm-hmm.
What about the people who are LGBT and Christian and they want, what if somebody wants to come and they don't know what they believe in, but they just want to find somewhere where they can be everything that they are authentically?
Hmm.
That's what the Bible study was for me. That's what the Bible study was for a lot of different people of different religions, and they took it away.
Yeah, that sucks.
But I brought it back.
Yes.
And
Awesome.
through the LGBT Center, and I sort of kind of just created it to be that place where no matter what you believe in, no matter who you are, no matter what's your identity or the many identities that you encompass, this is a place where you can exercise and be all of those things, because it's hard to be all of those things in the open sometimes.
So is it more like a community of support or like a community based on education?
It's two in one. The LGBT Bible study is it focuses on biblical principles, but we apply it to like real life. We take it out of scripture and just like, okay, well, how do you feel about this person? I hate them. Why do you? It's not that great to hate people because it takes a lot of energy and stuff out of you. Like, so we apply it to real life.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I make it adaptable so that any and everybody of all different beliefs or no beliefs can come and feel like they're being represented in some form or fashion.
Yeah. And there's like turnout. There's
Yeah. At one point I had about 15 plus people in here.
wow.
It has grown. It went from 4 to about 15 plus. So,
That's
and
incredible.
this is like a new thing. And then the community aspect is where we can just ask different kinds of questions about different kinds of religions. It doesn't focus on biblical anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a place where you can just be all that you are. So I just basically came up here and created an entire community for people like me and not like me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of kind of how it impacted
Yeah, that's awesome.
my
For sure.
ways up here. What about you?
I remember when I first came here, first thing I did was the involvement fair. And I remember seeing all of the churches, all of the, or like religious groups that had a booth, had a table. And I remember being like physically sick when I passed them. I was just like, how did I leave this? How did I leave and still I'm confronted with way too many, in my opinion, religious booths at this place where I'm supposed to find myself and I'm supposed to be my own person. I'm supposed to do all of these things, and I realized like I mean, it's important for everyone else, and so many other people are Christian, and it's like a really good thing. But like, I remember being approached by someone who was like talking about the church, and he stopped me and he asked me about like my religious experience, and I was like feeling real honest that day, and was like, no, like I was like it was horrible, and he just stood there and told me that I was wrong, and he told me that like everything that I had experienced was incorrect, and that the church wasn't that way, and that all and I was crying, and I left like immediately. I was like, why? You know, how can I? And so I guess ever since that point, I've been really unmotivated to open myself back up to that stuff again. Like I just like push it out of, like I just don't want to be around it, and I feel like I will continue to do that until I am comfortable enough in my own skin, comfortable enough back home, you know, and like I probably won't ever go back to church again. I don't know, but I know like here it still makes me angry. I'm still not out of that yet. I might be in the future, but I don't know, there's just so much that I have to get past, which I mean I don't think I can do on my own, but yeah, that really wasn't a great answer.
No, that was a great answer.
A little confusing. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it confused me seeing how many Christian groups were on campus. Like, it honestly confused me. I was like what's going on? Mostly because I assumed for some reason that, like, I lived in this crazy Christian bubble, and then when I left, it's different everywhere else, but it's just not. And, I mean, I just don't know. There are a lot of churches in Athens.
There are a lot of churches just about everywhere.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
It's just,
yeah.
and I see them and I don't have any hope that they're any better than the one I went to. You know? I see them and I'm like, that church board. Fucking church board. You know, like I just get, because I don't know if they're any different, and I shouldn't be judging them based on my experiences in the past, but like so many people have been affected by the harms of it, and like it is harmful, and there are really, really a lot of things that need to be fixed in the church, but I just don't have anything to do with it, you know? It's not my job. I don't know.
What you thinking about?
I don't know. I just came here to get away, you know?
Yeah.
Like I knew I was still involved in the church because I had to be in high school, just because like I played piano for our worship band. I was involved. Yeah.
Oh, dope.
I've been taking lessons. Well, I guess I stopped, but I played for years, 10, 15. But yeah, no. So like, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. I was involved in the church and it sucked, and now I'm not, and it's better for me. That might change just because I really think that there are communities out there that are helpful and that really do a lot of good, but
As of now.
I never had time to be like myself ever. Just a lot of things were denied. Like a lot of things I was not supposed to feel or think or do, and things like normal things like, oh my word, talking about sex, listening to secular music, that was not allowed. I remember Oh my word. We were not allowed to listen to anything other than Christian rock or like the Christian station or
Or
worship
like contemporary
songs.
stuff.
We were, I mean, it was 100% not allowed. And my dad, who is like this music buff, who really loves classical music and is a total deadhead, like he loves the Grateful Dead and he just Led Zeppelin and all that fun stuff. Like I remember being with him and listening to all this music and like my eyes were open for the first time that was like a possibility. But he had to hide it from my mom and from everyone. It sucks.
Well, everyone,
So this is episode 1.
really deep, really, really lots of things. This is like one of the harder topics of LGBT individuals.
It's an ongoing conversation for
It
sure.
absolutely.
This is not.
Oh
This is
my
just the
gosh.
start, I guess. There's a
Mm.
lot of things to be discussed.